Today we're going to combine two nuke boxes. What you'll need is painter's tape, you'll need sugar syrup, and you're going to need newspaper. We get the small local newspaper. Pages fit perfectly over a nuke box. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take the newspaper and lay it on top of the nuke that, well, one of the two nukes that you're going to combine. It's got your bottom board, so it's right in between, and then you're going to take your sugar syrup that's set up like a feeder, and we just tip it over because it spills out, and we'll do this 1 or 2 times and get the paper nice and wet. That way you don't have to look for a spray bottle, because a lot of people say you need a spray bottle, spray the whole thing, get it real wet. Yeah, with that you just use the same feeder you always use, and then you just flip it over. And then you're going to add your other box. Boom, just like that. So you might be thinking, hey, the top box, those bees can't get out. That is true. So what they're going to do is they're going to see that sugar syrup and they're going to eat it off of the newspaper. They're going to tear holes in it. And then as they're doing that, that gives them time to smell the queen that's in the bottom box. And they're going to start to get used to her, just like how you would if the queen was in a cage. And by the time they get through that newspaper and into the bottom box, they will be assimilated to the bottom box. They're going to smell her and accept her, and things should be good in the world. And then they'll be able to use that front entrance of the nuke and get in and out, and this would operate like a normal hive. So you see that there's newspaper sticking out on the edge. So the reason we tell you to get the painter's tape is you're going to grab your painter's tape and you are just going to seal that up. So you're going to bend that newspaper down. Now you might be asking, why do we do that? And that's because it's helpful with 2 people, but that's because when it rains here in North Carolina, that newspaper gets wet if it's exposed, and then it's going to absorb into the hive. And that's one of the things that we don't want. It's not going to freeze at this time of year, but we still don't want a whole bunch of moisture in the hive, and then there's mold and all sorts of other issues. So we use painter's tape on the outside. We seal it up. That seals up any other entrances as well. So you need to look around and make sure how your nuke or hive is built, that there's no other cracks or crannies that top box can get out of, and you'll be good to go. So that's basically all you do. We'll wrap that painter's tape all the way around a couple times just to make sure it's set. All right, good luck, and I hope this was helpful. Remember to subscribe and like if you want to see more of these. 10 frame queen castle. Queen castles have different entrances on each side for each section. So you see that section, the second one, lines up with this entrance here, or exit. The one on the very first one lines up with one that's down in the crevice here. I don't know what to think about that yet, but we didn't put any bees in that. So if we open the very first section of the queen castle, you can see that it's a 2-frame hive, and what you do is whatever cells you have that are swarm cells or supersedure cells and you want to make a new queen, you put 1 frame in there, and the second frame is all resources. You'll put as many nurse bees as you can in there. And so what we did is this second one here, we have our swarm cells, the 3 capped, and we put in another frame of resources and some capped brood, of course, and then they will create their queen. And if you recall, it takes 8 days to get capped, and then you have another 8 days until emergence, and then approximately 10 days to get mated, and after that you can get back in there and find out what's going on. So give it a shot if you ever get a chance to make some queens on your own. self-sustaining. That way we're not buying stuff from other people all the time. So 2 weeks ago we came in and we did a checkerboard, which means we added a second box on top of the original brood box. And what we did is we use foundationless hive or frames. So using foundationless frames, checkerboarding is the best way to ensure that they pull out straight comb. So I'm going to show you what it ended up looking like. This is a pulled frame from the bottom brood box. We pulled this one up. It's completely pulled out. It has brood in it. That's important. Have brood in it so that they want to come up and do the same thing. And then I'll take this and I'll show you how they're pulling it out. So as you can see here, they've started at the top, right along that edging, okay, which is called a frame guide. Okay, so they're going to pull out just like this, where it's 4, 5, or 6 different hanging pieces of wax in an oval-like shape. Okay, so by setting an empty frame next to a pulled frame, we're using our knowledge on bee space that we learned at bee school, and by setting that frame directly up against the pulled one, they will then pull this one out nice and straight. Now keep in mind, yes, this one's pulled, it's nice and straight. This one, we're hoping that they do that. In this empty spot, you have to have another pulled out frame. So that's called checkerboarding, where you have pulled out, not pulled out, pulled out, not pulled out, pulled out. So it's every other. Okay?
And sometimes still you get something like this.
Yeah, and sometimes you still get brace comb, where they'll start at the top, but then for some reason they just connect it to the other frame. As a beekeeper, that's part of management. You're going to come in and just cut it off and have them restart. Okay, you can either use a rubber band and put that thing back on there, the wax back on, or you can let it hang like this, which is not what we're going to end up doing. We're going to take it out, and as long as there's no eggs or anything in it, we'll just stick it in our mason jar of random wax pieces, and once this gets full, we'll make a candle. So there you go, checkerboarding. So that one down there is our pulled out. Then we have the not pulled out, which would be next to it, and then this one's pulled out. That one wasn't. This one was, and then it looks like we put one that was next to it, and then...
This is all new comb.
Oh, that's all new?
Yeah, this is all new
Okay,
comb.
so that's new comb. So we must have put 2 that were empty next to each other. So we might have just not had another pulled out to put up there. So that stuff happens too, and you just roll the dice. Alright. Pulled this out of one of my hives, and this is an example of not a healthy hive. However, it's a good opportunity to show people what does wax moth really look like. Not this over here. We're focusing on this. So this is not necessarily the end of the world. Just because you have a little bit of wax moth, it can be bad. You can see here, if I adjust it, you can see the fecal matter in the, well, move it back some. There we are, right here. So you can see the fecal matter. That's the black stuff in the wax. So they really tear up your hive, because this is wax that they've turned into something else, and that's all fecal matter. So I'll then pull out a wax moth larva if I can find it. But pretty much the answer that we have here to fixing this issue is go in, take the frame out of the hive that you found it in. Either do what I'm doing here and just pulling out the crap, which the bees will do. If you put this in a strong hive, they'll take it right out. They have no issue doing that. But for this teaching moment, we're showing the fecal matter. It comes out in chunks whenever you pull it out. So remember that wax moth will have this spider web looking deal. You can see the tunnels that it makes. You can even see over here there's a little tunnel that's going on. Now if you see something like this that looks like a little tunnel but you're not sure, I would not just grab this frame and tear it out and then go through it. Wait until you have a definite 100% this waxy, silky, whatever this stuff is. So it doesn't look like I actually have a larva right here. Well, watch, I take a little bit of it and a big chunk comes out. So, and it's all filled with fecal matter. Not something that you really want your bees around. And your bees let it in. So really, what I would consider doing is one or two things. Either combine the hive with something else if you're queenless. That's if you're queenless. If you're not queenless, maybe consider restricting some space. So if you got them in a box over another box or a double deep, I would very much suggest turning it in just a single brood box for now. Let them build it out. The other things I would do is reduce the entrance, make it much smaller. Theirs was pretty small, however, they just went through a supersedure period where they superseded their queen, and they're not really recovering too well. I'm trying to see if I can find this larva for you at the same time as talk. It's becoming more difficult. I may pause it, find it, and then bring us back. And if I don't find it, then I'll just set it out. If you set it out, don't set it out overnight. What? Oh yeah, this one looks like it became a butterfly or wax moth. Because it's got a little bit of carcass in here. Woo! Look at that. I'll zoom in on that. So this is what they end up doing. I'm trying to find the right distance. It will focus in on that and it'll look crystal clear. I'm glad the background looks the way it does. Boom. Look at that guy. I was gonna be a bee. Oh no, I'm definitely a worm. So that's what you're looking for. You want to pull that guy out. Ugh, gross. Pull him out, give him to your chickens, and then toss this either into a strong hive or go ahead and use some sort of, oh gosh, he's all over the place, some sort of wax moth killer. I'm trying to think of the name of the wax moth killer that everybody knows about, and I believe it's called Serena with a C, but we don't use that. I'll typically just set this out in the sun for a little bit, and then at night I'll throw it into a nuke box that we have here in the honey shed. But pretty much the sunlight, they really don't like it. The wax.
It goes down. So I pull this out a little bit. and then it fits 10. I don't know how many frames you have. It should be 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 and 6.
Why don't you just put this one over here instead? This sounds easier.
I guess not. Right.
So, frame ends go in upside down. We apply glue,
Only a little bit.
and then we're going to put on the bottom rails. And then we're going to use our new device. See how much quicker and easier this goes. Okay, so this is a little bit off, but I'm going to bring the girls back in. That's our air compressor. And then what we bought was an impact nail driver. I think that's right, impact nail driver. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have the girls put nails in and show you how easy this is with the Hive frame jig. So you can see here, all it essentially is you cut 2 holes out, slide that bar through, cut 2 holes out on the other side too. I mean, the concept's super simple. Leave enough wiggle room so that you can put some frames in and you're good to go.
On the magnet in there, you're going to put the nail on top of the frame and then slowly push down with it.
Okay, you ready?
I'll use the hammer. I'm not getting one of these. I'm good.
Use that,
Why?
because it's faster.
All the way down.
Yep. And gently, just gently push.
Yeah. Double shot at the end. Is it fun?
It has no like pushback because
Yeah.
of the rubber or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So use it on the rest of them.
Still not gonna get one of these. But oh no! Oh no!
Reset.
Make sure it's not too close to the edge.
No!
No, you're fine. You're fine. Just keep going.
Okay. The extra shots at the end might be destroying your frame a little bit.
They
Yeah.
are.
Maybe don't do the double tap.
I don't know how to stop that.
Right there. Oh, one more. There you go.
Okay. Slight learning curve. That looked a lot better. Then you flip over your entire box, you push it down, and once you have it pushed down and all the heads sticking up, you're going to apply glue and then just put your top rails on and nail it in. Oh no, they don't fit. What do I do? I make them fit. I got Lisa a new toy. Makes things faster. No more hammer needed.